You are God and you alone. You are majestic in holiness and awesome in glorious deeds. We thank you for this opportunity to gather here as neighbors of one another. We pray that you would grant patience to the members of this town board, that they would show love for one another and work together for what is good. We thank you for their desire to serve this town as volunteers. May those who speak here speak carefully and clearly, treating others with respect. Give us the confidence we need to do what is right, even when it is not popular. Give us the courage we need to change the things that need to be changed and the resolve to carry it out. Give us the ability to work together despite our disagreements. Open our eyes to the needs that are all around us, and give us wisdom to know how to best help others. We ask that you would grant our town peace and safety, and to that end, please protect our volunteer firefighters as they respond to emergencies and help people in need. Watch over the deputies of Nye County Sheriff's Department as they protect us from criminals. And we ask all these things in the name of Jesus Christ, through the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Richard, would you please lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. This is the regular Amargosa Valley Town Board meeting at 7 p.m. here in the Community Hall. The public can make a comment at the first public comment and the second public comment, and on each item for action, I will ask the public for public comment. So you actually have 3 areas where you can make public comment. Please, and when you make public comment, be courteous. Don't name people's names and make outrageous statements. And so that's there. The next item on the agenda after the pledge is the approval of the agenda. Actually, it's a non-action item, so it doesn't take action. So are there any items on the agenda that the board would like to remove? If so, please state. Seeing no comment, I'll go to item number 3, the first public comment, 3 minutes on your public comment. Please step forward, say your last name, spell your last name.
Diane Brigham, B-R-I-G-H-A-M. I would like to ask the board to get their agenda items correctly stated for your agenda of April 22nd, tonight. 10A on the agenda has the incorrect job title. I see that you did find the job description that I think was approved March 22nd, 2018. The job entails more, as you can see from the description, than just starting the trucks and changing oil. It's a town employee position. Please quit confusing it with a volunteer fire department title as you have in the agenda item. Your item 9 reflects committee reports. Have you established each of these committees? Do you have bylaws or policies and procedures to establish committees? Apparently, with item 10C, you have citations to something regarding committee liaisons. What document are you citing, and where is it available? Please be consistent with your statements of each agenda item, especially if it is stated in the form of a motion. Sometimes you state discussion and deliberation, motion to approve. Other times, just discussion and deliberation too. It's a subtle difference, but for the purpose of helping members make clear, concise motions, and in the interest of a smooth running meeting, please review all your statements. Make sure any items submitted for the agenda have proper backup material, especially details for any fiscal impact. If there's no supporting material, do not accept the item. At the bottom of the first page of your agenda, a statement reads that support documentation for the items on the agenda provided to the town board is available to members of the public at the Amargosa town office. NRS 241.020 section 3C requires the name and contact information of the person designated by the public body, this board, to be provided to the public so that they can get supporting material for the meeting. Please, all of you, read Chapter 241 of the NRS, reread it. Be familiar with the Attorney General's open meeting law manual. Read the annotations, they're really helpful in explaining how open meeting law has evolved in Nevada, and it'll help you understand the things that are required. Also read NRS Chapter 354 on local government finance. Read and understand it. There are a lot of requirements in there. Look at the Nevada Department of Taxation website. You're responsible for meeting their calendar and for having a capital improvements plan. I would like copies of the town ordinances, copies of any bylaws and policies and procedures, and a copy of any capital improvement plan. Please consider this a formal request. I will be handing you copies of this so that you can do that. If you would like me to finish my comments at the second public comment, I can do that, or I can finish reading this now. I've probably exceeded my time.
Thank you.
Minshall, M-I-N-S-H-A-L-L. I want to correct a misstatement made by John Foster about hiring an attorney. In 2019, an attorney presented a variety of options to represent us. One was an hourly rate, one was a $25,000 retainer that we use when needed, or we could spend $100,000 a year. We didn't accept any of these. I feel we should definitely have money in the budget, in the next budget, to hire an attorney as needed and put $25,000 to $50,000 in that budget, because we probably will need a lawyer at some time. Also, April 8th was supposed to be a budget meeting. There was no backup for that meeting, and all of us attendees had to sit while it was gone through without any backup that we could look at. April 15th was supposed to be a capital project meeting. That wasn't held either. That was last week. I think we need to have an emergency meeting, hopefully on the 29th, which I think is next Thursday, to get at least a budget meeting in. I also feel that we need an emergency meeting to hire Mike Cottingham as administrative deputy town clerk. He is the only one in this town. Let me repeat, the only one in this town that can get us out of the mess that we are in with our unpaid bills, with our evidently non-functioning town email system. We had a COVID pod here on Tuesday, An announcement should have gone out from the town board about this to all of the residents in the town. According to NRS 354.624, we must designate an auditor or an audit firm to notify the Department of Taxation 3 months prior to the close of the year, and the close of the year is June 30th. I do not believe that this has been done, although I do believe there is money in the budget to do this. If it has not been done, we need to get it done. Again, I strongly urge you to have an emergency meeting for both hiring Mike Cottingham, doing a budget meeting, and also doing a capital projects meeting. Thank you.
Any other comment? John?
Good evening, John Denloff, Denilofs.
Gotta hit the button.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
John Denloff, good evening, Denilofs. I agree, we need a budget meeting, and I think if the board would notify everyone now that we have one next Thursday, it would truly help, so we can finalize and see and make the town, our citizens, aware of what the new budget's going to be. Also, the way I'm sitting here, I feel like I'm addressing the audience. If we're going to be following the NRS, we should be following all procedures, and this podium needs to be facing the chair. It needs to be there so we can look at the chair, and the chair is in charge of the room, not the mob. So that's the second thing I would like to see done by next Thursday. It's extremely important because the county wants us to have it finalized by the middle of May. But what's really important is that the county and the meeting on Tuesday, our name was very well utilized, Amargosa Valley. And I now live here. I love you guys. And if somebody talks bad about us outside of Amargosa, I feel very personal about it. I think we need to do something about it. The county says we need to hire an attorney. Let's start shopping for an attorney. The county also said we need a town administrator. And this Mike guy, who seems to be like a love and a very knowledgeable person, should come in here and run the town and be a town administrator. But at the same time, we have to put that out for everybody else to compete. And so hopefully he gets it. But let's also fill out the deputy town clerk position. It's already in the budget. And my dream is to have a clerk helping the deputy town clerk. I've experienced something, I think it was yesterday, and I saw our board member here working very hard in that office. And I don't think that's her duties, but she's doing it. So I think that's pretty darn good. And I am not counting on how many things, but I do know we need somebody to monitor the 3-minute rule, because I love going over the 3-minute rule. So it's time to hunker down. Everybody's quoting NRS, but let's start doing it professionally. Thank you for your time.
Dave Hall, HALL. Would you please look at number 9, C and I. I have never volunteered to put my name in to be on that planning committee, so please take my name off of that, and that will have to be re-agendized with the proper person on it. Thank you.
That's a typo, that should be Dennis Hall.
On the internet, correct.
Any other comment? Okay, we'll close public comment. We'll go to item number 4. That is the possible discussion, deliberation, and approval of the March 4th, April 1, April 8th. It's been brought to my attention that March 4th and April 1 were approved at the last meeting. So we'll take that off the agenda, and we'll just simply have the April 8th minutes And I believe the April 8th minutes was on the table in the back. Do I have a motion from anybody on the board?
On my minutes, my motion, I can second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Any public comment on the minutes?
Minchell, on March 4th and April 1, where you approved the minutes, you didn't have backup for the minutes, they should not have been approved.
No further discussion on the approval of the minutes? Okay, all those in favor, Deborah?
Aye.
Trevor?
Trevor, aye.
Richard?
Richard, aye.
John, aye, that passes 4-0. Board member comments, this item is for announcements or topics and issue proposed for the future workshop and agendas. Deborah, do you have any?
Yes, I've been attending a class last month for helping at the University of Reno for Nevada tourism. It came out with some very interesting information, which I passed out at the last meeting. It made you take a real hard look at this town and what we are doing or not doing. And it seemed like I had to answer a lot of not doings. The second class will take place around 13 May. I'm not sure exactly when. And once I have all that material available, it will be put out for the public.
Trevor?
Yesterday, one planning committee guy and myself were at the Regional Transportation Commission meeting in Pahrump. And then later at the Regional Transportation Service office, I guess it's separate, one's underneath the other. Anyway, they asked me to bring a survey, a questionnaire out to Amargosa, and there's a dozen or 16 of them back there. And I'll take a handful of them to the senior center. But basically, they're looking at our community, wanting to know what our preferences are in terms of public transportation. They run a bunch of vans around Pahrump, and they know that they've been talking to Beatty. They know that the needs out here outside of Pahrump are extreme because the distances are longer. Anyway, surveys in the back. This is a preliminary look at what our needs are out here, so they want input. As usual, I like to mention that we need a budget workshop or a budget meeting, a capital projects workshop. Also, I think I caught the newsletter. It'll be in the newsletter. We have a cemetery cleanup on 22 May. We talked about this a couple meetings ago. Dave and I thought that 93 was reasonable. So there it is. It'll be in the calendar. I'd like to have you come out, bring your gloves, bring your tools.
Richard?
Yes, thank you. As much as I'm in favor of tourism and such, you must remember that Amargosa Valley is kind of a bedroom community, farming community. I don't know what kind of tourism we can have out here, other than the sand dune. I'm trying to get materials from the Arbor Foundation. I would like to start getting more involvement in that and support. They provide trees for free, and I think it would, if we all, as a community, started planting more, it would improve us a lot out here. And I have recently come across a thing called the Farm Foundation, which helps farmers protect their land and keep their land from being converted from farmland to other uses. The idea being to keep farming land farmed. So I'll also, next month, have Suter bring information about those and leave them in the back.
Thank you. I've had two contacts. One contact was on Pahrump tourism, and what Pahrump tourism wants to do is they want to reactivate the off-road race from Pahrump to Beatty, and the off-road race would go through Crystal, and then would go through the northern part of the town of Amargosa, across BLM land, up to Beatty. And I think it would be important that we have an agenda item for the town to discuss the off-road, because the last off-road that we had here in the valley, my recall, is that the parallel highway 373 from about where the IMV mine road comes out, and they went all the way down parallel to Highway 373 north, and then finally cut across the northern part of the town where there was little or no housing. And basically my recall is that left dust in the community for about a full day after. And basically this is a tourism that Pahrump wants to put on for Pahrump, but it's a race through our community. And I guess we need to decide if we want to allow this off-road race to go through our town. And this is part of the Nevada tourism class that Deborah was talking about. I think basically that's what the town of Pahrump might be doing for that Nevada tourism ideas. But that's something. The other contact I had was from the school district wanting to know if we could put some grant money in the budget to help the students here in Amargosa Valley for the students that do well in the classrooms. And I think that would be an item that we could add to the May 27th when we do the final budget on the town. Thank you. Go ahead, if everyone stands up.
For board member comments, I neglected to mention, it looks like we're recording this meeting, which means we need to be on our best behavior. It's not clear whether or not we're streaming. We might be.
Fire department report.
I'm Bruce Gibson with the fire department report. In March, we had 9 medical calls, 2 landing zones, 1 public assist, 5 MVAs, a structure fire, and 1 wildland fire. I'm sorry, Dave. We have a hazmat operations class beginning on 5/8. We have 4 firefighters in this class. We have an EMT class starting on May 21st. We have 7 people from Amargosa in this class. We have also a couple of CPR classes happening at the same time. And while the CPR class is going on, we're going to have a CEVO class that will allow people to teach people how to operate ambulances, drive defensively, and that sort of thing. All of our EMRs and EMTs have all their recertification paperwork submitted. Because of COVID, everything is running behind at the state, but our 2 EMTs have received their national recertifications back already. Our department training, we've been focusing on driver training, trying to get more people that can operate our equipment and bring it to the scenes. Also, we're trying to get everybody on the department to learn how to run the pumps, and I think that'll help our capabilities quite a bit. All our equipment is in service. numbers are unchanged now for quite a while. The vaccination pods that they're having now are open to all ages. You go on the county website and see the dates and places and make an appointment. Also, there's dunes cleanup this weekend, Saturday. Probably gonna send some firefighters out there where wants to go, engine, show their support, spread some information on how to give dispatch information when somebody gets hurt out there. So we have trouble ending up in the wrong place or things like that. That's all I got. Thank you.
What time is that dune cleanup? 8 a.m. is it? It's 8 a.m.
I think
Saturday.
it's kiosk on the valley side.
Thank you. The next item is at the last meeting, the Nye County Sheriff's Office, Mr. Lynn requested that we put on the Sheriff's Office report, but I don't see anybody here from the Sheriff's Office to make a report this evening. Okay, number 8 is town report, and so it's for possible action, discussion, deliberation, motion to approve invoices for the payment and the approval letter for signatures. And the vouchers were put out on the table in the back, and it's in the backup. And I think that a thanks needs to be complimented Deborah for getting this work and getting it ready. So Deborah, would you take over that part of the meeting, please?
Okay, on vouchers, we came to a total of $23,781.81. Part of this is that we had not paid Nevada Health Services their monthly contract for 4 months. So our bills overall are not that much. Plus we have a $3,000 payment that will be going to the Amargosa Valley School in support of their higher learning. Other than that, we have nothing else on the letter from the county. They're agreeing to pay an average of certain bills and give them automatic approval as soon as they're loaded. It includes Amargosa Disposal, AmeriGas, Area Pest, AT&T, Baby Graphics, Nevada Health, Public Works, and Valley Electric. Any questions?
Is there any reason we couldn't put others on automatic pay like that? Save the office the trouble of having to do that.
No, you have to have very specific paperwork loaded each time. So I motion that you accept the vouchers as printed out before you.
Second, Trevor.
Any public comment?
Yes, I have a question. Deb, is the health center, that's only January, so if all 4 months were in there?
It's 4 months, it's $12,000.
Okay,
$3,000 per month.
okay. And is that gonna be on when is the recurring bill, let it go in and take hold?
It's gonna go in for the next pay period, which would be May.
Okay, thank you.
But for now, it's to catch up those payments.
For the record, can you state your name, please?
No, Carolyn Allen, A-L-L-E-N.
Thank you.
Any other question from the public? Any other question from the board? I'll call for the question. Deborah?
Aye.
Trevor?
Trevor, aye.
Richard?
Richard, aye.
John, aye, passes 4-0. And, all of us signed the letter last meeting, and so Deborah has the letter with our 4 signatures. You want to?
No, I don't think we need to reinitial, I put a thing on the vote.
Okay,
That should be good enough.
I think so.
But this has signatures.
While John's signing that, another thing I had for board member comments, at the last meeting, you recall the Public Works Director was here and he said that he had 5 streetlights that he was gonna give to Amargosa, but we needed to sort out amongst ourselves where they should go. And I'm sure there would be some installation costs, so that's a future discussion item.
I think we should, when we do that, finally replace the one in our parking lot just outside, that's been waiting almost 10 years.
The, one item that I forgot to mention is I got a call from the sanitation company, and they went to the county board meeting, and they are proposing an increase in the sanitation costs. I think for the general public pickup, there would be an increase of $2 and some cents. And for the increase for the town would be $98 and something, just about $100. And so basically they have been running a program where they get out of the landfill material, the cardboard, the plastic bottles, and everything that can be recycled. And doing that, they have increased the life of the landfill a great number of years. And I have invited the gentleman from the committee to come to our next board meeting to discuss the increase so that everyone in the community will understand the reasons for the increase. Basically, it's already been presented to the county, but being a good businessman, he wants to also talk to the local community. So I have invited him to come and speak to the community at our next board meeting. Okay, that takes care of that. So we have the town reports, and have we had a discussion about the expenditure report, Deborah?
No, we didn't discuss it, but we are well on track with all our spending for being in April, and we only have 2 months left to the fiscal year, so all in all, we are in very good shape. Unless anyone has some questions.
Okay. Okay, 9A, Human Resources. Committee reports, Human Resources.
I'll just speak to that. We need volunteers for that committee in particular. We're down to 2 people, and it looks like one of them's gonna leave. So there's an opportunity to serve the community. That's one of the most critical committees. Well, they're all critical, but anyway, there's opportunity to volunteer there.
Cemetery Committee.
Most of the last 2 years I was on, Pat was on the cemetery committee. She kind of handed some of the paperwork over to me. I've already mentioned we've got a cemetery cleanup coming up, and you're all aware we had a couple burials out there last month.
Okay. Planning Committee.
Paul, I gather you wanted me to speak to this, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I attended the last planning committee. We didn't do much November, December. We didn't do anything November, December. We didn't hold meetings, and January either. But anyway, we had a meeting, I guess, about a week ago. And we got a few things back on track. The chair is negotiating with planning people over in Pahrump to see if they can help us with the area plan editing and updating. But that's unresolved. We had a bunch of people show up. We had 3 visitors show up with questions. That's kind of exciting. And it's, of course, a public meeting. It gets posted. Come on out. I think it's what, the first or second Tuesday of the month. And the planning committee might be coming to the town board and asking for money for the publication of the area plan. Thanks.
Well, there's item I underneath there, where they requested we add 2 people to the committee.
Yeah, thank you. That was on the agenda. Everybody's seen that. Those 2 guys were at the meeting, so we had, we have 3 members currently. If we put these guys on, now this is an action item. I'll get this to you, John.
Okay, item I is for possible action, discussion, and deliberation to appoint, and it was a typo, should be Dennis Hall. That was my mistake, Dave. I put Dave instead of Dennis.
I saw it, and I was going to line it out before I posted them, and so I spaced it too. I knew it wasn't you.
You were just trying to get me back on there.
But the guy lives at the south end of the valley. I hadn't met him until late last year.
And the other person is Yamaha, and how we can pronounce his last name, Trevor?
No, I ain't gonna try.
Oh, Holly.
Anyhow, Yamaha, I believe, is the manager, owner of the old My RV Park in Long Street. So those 2 people have volunteered for the committee, and I need a motion to approve them.
I'll make the motion to approve these 2 new names.
I'll second.
Do I have a second?
Deborah, just a second.
Deborah, second, okay. Any discussion? I think it's important that we add people to our committees. Basically, we had a request for all of the people on the committee and the bylaws, and it is just amazing that those people who are requesting that information never requested it the last 4 years. But now we have a town board with an office that's not operating, and we get all of these requests. So I think that you need to bear with the board. We need to find out who's on the committee. If there are bylaws, I know that there are bylaws on the planning committee, and they were approved by the board. But the other bylaws, historically, I've heard for 15 years, committees come up and make comments and so on, and I don't know all of the members on the boards, and I don't know all of the bylaws, and it's never, to the best of my knowledge, ever been discussed until we get a change in the board, and then we have people in the valley who have attitude, I guess, you don't care for the board, so you're requesting all of this information. But eventually we'll get the information to you when we have staff to do such. Can I have a vote for approval, Deborah?
Aye.
Trevor?
Trevor, aye.
Richard?
Richard, aye.
John, aye, passes 4-0.
They've been drafted.
Senior Center.
Okay, Dave Moll for the record. I just want to bring to the board's attention that we've moved on from having totally homebound delivered meals now so that we are having dinner at the senior center. So if you will notice the homebound seniors, that's a big number, 390 people. We actually delivered meals to everybody because we could not have in-house dining. So that'll change this month. That'll be a much different number. But for the month between the homebound and the congregate, we had, in the month of March, we had 566 meals that we delivered. In January, yeah. Well, I'll go through the whole thing. In January, February, pretty much 123 families went through the commodity line. March was a little slim at 118, but April we were up to 121. So if you look at it, it's pretty consistent month after month how many people utilize the commodity distribution at the senior center. And so on the average, we're doing about 475 individuals in this valley every month to receive as much stuff as we can get and give out. And Gene Adams is consistently working with the people that supply stuff to us. We've got a couple more grants that we just recently received, so we'll be able to supply more food to those people so that they have a better diet and better material to work with. If you come down to our utility expenses, we've been pretty consistent for the last 3 months. We'll have a big hit in April because we had our Ansel system and all our fire extinguishers maintained. And as you know, that's a big chunk of change to have those folks come in. So that'll be probably a big month in April. But that gives you total expenditures to date is $11,582.04. So we'll keep you updated on that. I believe the Ansel inspection was like $1,200 to $1,500 last year. So it's a quite a, plus we had the quarterly water sampling done, which is another big expense that the county does for us, but we reimburse the county. Transportation, we still got a couple, 1 or 2 people that utilize the transportation from Pahrump to groceries or to medical appointments in Pahrump. And that's supplied every Tuesday by the Pahrump Senior Center, which we have a working relationship with. And if you'd like to eat at the Senior Center, we've got quite a variety of menu now. The number is 727-5008. We prefer reservations, that way we can kind of know how many people are coming. We're really trying to control our costs and make sure that we do the best for everybody and try to watch our expenditures. So I will mention that on May 15th, we are going to have a community pancake breakfast. That's on a Saturday morning from 9 to 11. And the proceeds from that will be to provide materials to help us kind of reconstruct some of the stuff that's going bad on our thrift store. It's been a long time since we've had any paint or some of the wood nailed back on the building. So we need a few dollars to help us along those lines. And that income from the senior center, from the thrift store, actually gets distributed between the commodity distribution and the operation at the senior center, and that supplements, the grants that we have. So those are the only 3 things, and everything that you see on here is done by volunteers except for the cook and the site manager. So appreciate everybody that comes out and gives us a hand as always. So thank you.
Dave, I have a couple of questions.
Certainly.
Well, my first comment is not a question, it's a compliment. I just saw that the population of Amargosa increased from 1,300 to 1,400.
That's correct.
And it would appear to me the number of individuals that you're serving, that's a very large proportion of the community.
It is. You figure that, and Diane really has a really good handle because we've been filling out a number of grants, but the actual poverty level in this valley, as it was noted in the paper, all of Nye County is, the worst in all the state, plus Amargosa Valley in itself is actually lower than Pahrump, of course.
When will you find out about the new application that you made because of the virus?
We, with the grant money?
Yes.
Diane's done the third. These applications are redundant in a way where you have to kind of repeat yourself, so they go in stages. The first three have already been resubmitted, like you have to do, you know, they always add one more page, and then you gotta kind of reword what you said, add some stuff to it, so little by little, as they approve a section, they send it back to us, and we reapply. Not reapply, but we resubmit the more information, so it's like any government grant that you get, you know, they wanna make sure that, you know, they've got enough paper to read, I guess, I'm not really sure, but we've accomplished all that so far, and we're just waiting until, you know, we hear back on, and this may be the final one, correct, Diane?
Okay, I have another question I'd like to ask you, is that, for the tentative budget, you made a request of $20,000.
That is correct.
Do you think because of this increase of service, that possibly you might want to request an increase on the final budget?
No, you know, John, I think what we wanna do right now is, you know, if you look at these numbers, these are better than we have been doing in the past, because we've made a lot of changes to our systems and reduced our costs, our operating costs. And the stuff that the town supplies, that's where we made some improvements. The stuff that, you know, you guys don't supply, like food, that we have to get through grants and so on, that's where kind of the cost increases are right now. We'll know better throughout next year whether utility increases are gonna be a factor. You just mentioned having, you know, dumpster, more funds to pay the dumpster guys or whatever. But, and who knows what propane's gonna do. It may go sky high because everybody wants to get away from fossil fuels. So anyway, it's just, I don't know, but right now I think we're good. And I think we've managed it to a point where we could probably get through next year. Like I said, we'll know better as we get through the year, but for the rest of this year and into next year, I think we'll be good.
Thank you.
Do you have public comments for this? Mr. Chair, do you have public comments for this?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have public comment.
Can I?
Well, actually, those were just reports. The only public comment that we would have would have been on the planning commission, John.
Oh, I just wanted to comment on what he said.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like what Dave Hall, also known for this meeting as Dave Dennis, to defer his answer to you, because at the budget hearing meeting, hopefully next Thursday, I'm pretty sure he'll get back with his committee to give me, maybe see if he need new numbers for the new budget. Because right now he's all excited that he doesn't have to be on the planning committee, that he was just not understanding your question, that perhaps the 20,000 that's already planning for the next budget isn't adequate with all the people that he's serving. So I think, you know, something like that, we should just dismiss his comment for that moment. And I've been to that senior center. It functions extremely smooth. So anybody that works at the senior center, volunteers at the senior center, I think we should be listening to them. Thank you for the time.
To the best of my knowledge, I've talked to Savannah, and she confirmed that she will be here on the 27th for the final budget. I asked her to please look at the final budget and make sure that we have enough money in the final budget for the areas where we would have possible increases in salaries and so much. And in the last few years, we have kept money in reserve, and we need to make sure that we have enough money in the budget in case that if we need money, we have the money that we can spend. And I know I'm repeating myself, but the auditor that we hired, I believe, takes care of the audit and so on with DTAC. But the auditor took and made a comment that rings in my ears, which is, if you are not using the money in the budget and you're not spending the money, then reduce the tax rate. And the last 2 years, the auditor pointed out is that there was over $100,000 in each budget that was not spent, that was put into reserves. And I'm not advocating that we run out and spend the money on everything we have, but we have to look at the fact that we need to have legal advice and we need a town manager. And those are two items that are not on the agenda right now. And we gotta make sure that we have money, that we can hire people in those positions when we do hire.
John, to that, I also studied last year's budget, and we actually had a surplus because of the previous board underspending and also not having the personnel that we thought. So there should be a bit of surplus to handle some of these things, so I think it looks good for the budget meeting.
Okay, well, we're off agenda right now, and I think what we need to do is that, we were talking about the upcoming, budget hearing, which is our final budget, and it has to be done before May 31 and sent to the state, and that'll take place on May 27th. Okay, on item number 10, general business, number 10 is, for possible action, deliberation to make a current fire captain maintenance full-time position for 20 hours per week to 40 hours per week. We were criticized for not putting the proper language in the agenda. I would like to take and point out to the person that made that criticism, that is the exact language that was put on the proposal that was presented to the board. That is the exact title that was there, which was fire captain / maintenance. Nowhere in the record do we have a fire captain / maintenance title. And so there's no backup for item number A. And without backup, how can we discuss it? That's exactly.
Bruce Jensen, JNSN. I'm the person involved with that agenda item. I submitted last month an item that just increased the administrative hours with the cost and backup. I put it in your box, and I also emailed it and asked if there was anything else I needed to do. I got no response, and I was pretty surprised to see that that's how it's worded still.
Well, the only thing we have is we have the request to put it on the agenda, and we have put it on the agenda, and we've been criticized, and what you're asking for is increase in administrative work. And basically, the history of the fire department is that the
Whoever
fire
speaks, put it on whoever speaks.
chief and staff of the fire department has always been volunteer. It's never been a paid position. And we have people who want us to take and approve salaries and etc. And what I'm trying to point out is that we don't have an ordinance that says we have this position for H&R. The H&R policy, to the best of my knowledge, has never been approved other than when it was approved in the year 2013. Now, if there is a cost of administrative work, the thing is that we need to know what is the administrative work that's being accomplished and how many hours is being devoted to that. We need backup. We just can't take and say, oh yeah, we'll increase it and
Can I interject here, John?
go ahead.
You don't have that for any other position here.
Pardon?
You don't have an itemized list of everybody's job description and everything they do every day for any other position here. And you've been paying somebody in my position for the last 5 or 6 years.
Well,
there was somebody before me.
Yes, we have been paying someone else.
And as far as the chief and captain, you're correct, that is a volunteer position. That's why that captain should not be on there. I did not submit it as a captain. I'm a volunteer fire captain. I'm a paid administrator. / maintenance person on the equipment.
Well, I copied the agenda item directly off of the application that was submitted.
For 3 months ago.
Yeah, that's the original one that was wrong, and you've discussed it at these meetings more than once as being incorrect. I submitted it with the proper wording, also backed up with the dollar amount that it would cost the town.
That's correct, but what I'm trying to say to you is even that position was never approved by this board.
Okay, I guess I don't exist, then I should just stay home now and not do anything.
Exactly. I feel that you're getting into dangerous ground. You're not supporting it. Everything we need to do is support this community.
That's correct.
Now, we can go with your
That's
rules
correct, yeah, but we can
and
support this community underneath the law.
Excuse me.
Underneath the ordinances that are approved by this board. But just to take and hire somebody at will that's been done the last few years is not the way we do business.
okay, I'm gonna let the community speak to
We have to
you.
follow the ordinances that we have.
John, Mr. Richard,
Yes, go ahead.
can we just stipulate that the position we're talking about is the one that Bruce has been holding all along? Whatever the name, the title on it we have, we can just stipulate that whatever that is. And then we could move forward with deciding whether we're gonna increase the hours or not.
I think one of the things this board has to realize is that positions have been filled, and the people that have filled these positions have done it unethically. It has never been approved by this board. And then they have bragged in the community that they have left this community in the best shape.
Right. What would be required for us to make this a position that Bruce could fill correctly?
No, the thing is you have to have the correct paperwork to go with it.
May I make a comment?
Yes,
Mr.
go
Chairman?
ahead.
Diane Brigham. I would love to see the board work with your employees to get these agenda items right. I pointed out to you that this position was approved in 2018. Bruce was hired the month after that for this position. We need to stop conflating the volunteers and the paid staff. Please help your employees get these agenda items, help each other get them right.
Okay, the thing is that we have tried to work with the employees, and people are making these comments, and I simply have asked if it's been approved by the board, where's the approval?
Mr. Chair?
I gave you the date of that approval.
Mr. Chair?
John?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I just want to tell you that you don't have to respond to the folks. We get our 3 minutes to speak, and you don't have to respond. The other thing is I've talked to almost maybe 200 people. I haven't found anybody that does not support Bruce Jensen. And that's the thing. Our employee, Bruce Jensen, working as a maintenance guy that's getting paid for it, but also doing another duty that's not getting paid for it. So the problem we have here is two things that's going to happen. One, Bruce is going to get the 40 hours. He's not going to get it with this budget, so it's not, what we're trying to do here is get it on the agenda correctly with the backup required to make sure it goes move forward so there's no way that he can lose his hours. Here's the best part. Make sure this coming Thursday, we have it on the budget to make sure our employee, Bruce Jensen, get his 40 hours in the new budget. So that's wonderful. And then on the next month, we put it on the agenda because everybody's going to form a little thing, work the agenda sentence correctly. We don't say nothing about rank. We say nothing except Bruce Jensen, the maintenance guy, should be doing 40 hours because he's also going to be doing the instruction. If I'm wrong here, please step up. But all I'm saying, Mr. Chair, you're in charge. The podium has to be facing you. You don't have to defend yourself. You have to listen and figure it out later. Okay, boss?
I think one of the things that's most important, John, is that here in our community, we have continued to do the same old things, and that is to ignore the law and just do whatever we want. All I'm asking is that when a person requests something on the agenda, they also produce the backup to support that agenda request.
And that's gonna happen, Mr. Chair.
Okay, this was on the last agenda, and there has been no backup in my board packet for this agenda, for people to take and say, oh, I'm against Bruce, I'm for Bruce, for everything he wants to do, but what I want this to do is to show that this job title has been approved by the board, and if it was approved by the board, then take a look at exactly what was approved.
I agree.
But the thing is that I don't have use of the computer, and from what I understand is that when we took office, when I came here February 3rd, I was told that the computer was not working. Deborah had to have the computer corrected because of passwords and etc. I do not go into the office, and I cannot download what was done in the past. I can show you the possible agendas that might have been approved.
I understand, Mr. Chair.
But what I'm saying to you is that we have to operate underneath the law, and the last board that we had, they did things not underneath the law, and they reached out and they used job titles for employees, appointments by the governor as a rationale of why they approved the positions, and it was never brought to the board and was never approved by the board.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just want to tell you, I don't talk about my exes, so let's not talk about the past. Let's think about the future.
Excuse me, I'd like to make one more statement. As you've seen on the backup table, there was backup for the fire administrator / light duty. I made sure all the board members have it, so the backup was there. Now, that Mr. Basta is insisting that we do everything according to Mr. Basta, I'd love to have the other board members actually speak up, because the first training officer and maintenance person was hired full-time 2 boards ago.
And that was a special contract.
I don't care.
That was a special contract.
I thought this was
Mr. Basta, it doesn't,
Yes, please comment. Go ahead.
it doesn't matter whether it was contract or a public employee. The thing is, you are doing this community such great disservice. And I want you to go ahead and have your stroke and look for someone to help you, because
That is your opinion.
Yes.
okay, that's my opinion, but I believe that the community is standing behind me on this one.
Well, what I'm trying to say to you is
No
that
more.
I think that there are a lot of areas in the community that they have been misinformed.
Mr. Basta, I'd love for you to sit in that fire captain chair and run your volunteer fire department
Is that
every day
Is that a
for the
threat,
next
Deborah?
week, please.
Is that a threat that you're gonna?
No, I'm just asking you to do that to understand what is going on.
Would you
I swore it
stop,
once.
stop the argument back and forth?
It's
This is for the public to speak,
Please
please.
think, Bruce, go. Point of order, let Bruce speak.
Mr. Boss, my position was already created before I started. It was voted on by the town board for the previous person, actually for quite a bit more money than what I got. It was voted on, I went through the HR committee, it was voted on by the town board, the position was created. That's how I got the position.
Bruce.
Now, I'm speaking, please.
Let me finish.
Everybody's heard about your ordinance or whatever you're talking about. But I requested in January, when the first one was shot down, to let's see what we gotta do. You're the town board. If I'm doing it wrong, tell me. I didn't submit that one, actually, but help us. You know, if you wanna have an employee for once that gotta be careful here.
You're fine.
But, you need to take care of your employees a little bit. I've been there 4 years, getting paid for 20 hours a week and working at least 30. That don't count any time that I volunteer. That's not relevant. But I think it's time. The town's always said that they're worried about paying PERS and stuff on me. Well, they have no problem paying it for anybody else.
Right. Bruce,
I'm still talking.
Okay, keep talking.
So, what I'm saying is, I guess the agenda item that I put in, everybody ignored. And it's getting to the point now where it kind of seems like it might be on purpose. And if that's the case, it's gonna be a big problem. So what I'm asking for is the cooperation of the board between me and you guys to figure out what we need to do. I can no longer spend my life at this fire department with no benefits and no pension, no nothing. You know, when I took the position, I didn't mind doing that. I thought I could do some good, and I think we have done some good. I think it's a safer fire department. It's a lot better trained. We've got people now that actually care about the town instead of their own image or their own ego. The safety attitudes are totally different. And I want just paid like a normal job. It shouldn't be that hard a decision for most people. If I was sitting in your spot, I'd be working with the person doing my job, trying to make sure that our fire department keeps running the way it should.
I think the thing that is important is that you keep.
We've heard what you think is important, John.
All right.
All right,
But the thing is, it just keeps getting rerun through in the same, nothing's changing.
John, Mike, if I may, between your public comments, please.
Go ahead.
It seems to me that what's really we're dealing with is just a simple question of can this employee's hours be increased to 40 from 20? Whatever the position is, that's the only question that we're at here. And I personally, I think the man has earned it, but if the job title needs to be corrected or whatever, but I think they've done that with the backup right here. So I don't know what it is you need to go further in order to advance this on the agenda and make a motion for it.
John?
Yes.
Can I have my say? I'm Jimmy Thomas.
Yes.
I was chairman of the board in 2018 when this position was created. It was created by this board. It was run through human resources and done. Everything was done correctly. Bruce was hired as fire department administrator, light maintenance mechanic, and he's been doing a wonderful job since then. I sent you 2 emails concerning the title of the agenda item that you have it as captain's, fire captain / mechanic, and told you both times that it was wrong. You would dictate not to change that, even though it's within your authority to change that. You can change it right now. You can modify that agenda item right now and make it fire department administrator, light maintenance mechanic, change that title and run it through and approve the 40 hours per week right now. You can do that. You don't want to do it because you're a stickler for the word of the NRS and everything goes out. You need to get off your butt and do things right.
I would also like to inform you that.
Don't inform me of anything, John. You have absolutely nothing to say that's of any interest to me.
Okay.
Carolyn Allen, ALLEN. John, sometimes you can try to do things so right, it can be so wrong. This needs fire administrator. If you really believe there was no backup, you should have pulled this agenda item. You can't have an agenda item without backup. But there is a fire administrator backup on there. He's been training, he's fully certified, and yes, he has a state fire marshal certificate. We've gone through this 4 times. And the language comes back the same, and it does seem to be purposeful.
All right.
Change it to fire administrator and make this right.
Well, the thing is, he's a fire administrator for 40 hours, or for 20 hours, and there's no justification for the increase of the work.
He's a certified trainer, he's doing all the training, keeping it up, he's the backbone of the fire department.
The evidence is the fact the man has been underpaid for years. Go ahead.
Pat Minshall, M-I-N-S-H-A-L-L. Part of the backup is you have to have the monetary impact.
Okay.
And you do not have that, or at least I'm not seeing any backup that says what the monetary impact is going from 20 to 40 hours. And without that, again, you can't do this. This should have been taken off the agenda. John, you should have taken it off because you know that you do not have that backup.
It is not necessarily my job to take things on and off the agenda, Al.
Okay. I believe we addressed John, I believe it was addressed at the budget meeting where they talked about the possible increase with Savannah of this employees.
That's not an approval of the position, that is simply putting the money in the budget.
Exactly, exactly. So
You
if
put the money in the budget such that at the time that position is changed,
right.
I'm simply saying is that if that position needs to be changed,
yes.
Proper paperwork needs to be brought forward showing what is necessarily the change. That has not been done.
Based on item A here, it says discussion deliberation, making the current maintenance position full-time. It would, fix the typo and call it administrative maintenance position from 20 to 40 hours. That's the item on the agenda.
That's correct.
Okay, now, if we don't have the approval on the budget, then that could certainly be done at the current, upcoming budget meeting, could it not? Well, that would be the final step to making this approved.
Number one, the person that puts out the agenda
Yes.
is Trevor, the clerk.
Okay,
And this item, in terms of the backup, as a board member, we come to these meetings and we need backup, and the backup is not in our packet.
yeah, it was. I just had it in my hand.
Let me say something.
Carolyn Allen again. I ran the numbers with the county. The financial end of it, the budget end of it, was in there and submitted long ago. I think because we haven't had meeting after meeting after meeting, and this keeps coming back, I don't know who's doing the agenda right now, but it's coming back the same way. And you need to make a motion to change amend the agenda to fire administration and make this work.
A lot of these jobs are the jobs that the fire chief has always done as a volunteer. Never did maintenance.
Sit on their ass. I do. I don't know where they're doing it.
John, I have another comment. The backup for the financials was in the item that I submitted, that I also emailed to the town office. It was there. And what you're saying the fire chief used to do for nothing, that's not correct.
No.
Lon Fuller was a paid chief that did that job. Mike Conningham was not a chief, but he did that job. The actual fire chief now is a volunteer position. The training officer has been a paid position for the last 3 years. The administrator maintenance position has also been a paid position for the last almost 4 years.
Okay.
Let me finish, please. Those positions were both created by the board, run through the HR committee, and voted on by this board.
What I'm trying to say to you is that the H&R committee, when I sat in here as an individual and the item came up, I took and said to them, when is the H&R committee been approved? And it was tabled because it had never been approved. Kurt Stingle, God bless his heart, quit the H&R committee because the town board would not approve the manual.
Okay, if you're using that for an excuse, then nobody belongs in that office, nobody belongs in the park, nobody belongs anywhere in this town getting paid doing anything.
No.
That's not the way it's been worked. And if that's messed up, it's your position, it's your job to straighten it out.
What you're saying is that it has never been there, and you say the thing is that it's a matter of finding the records. And I'll be very honest with you, if you go into that office, you cannot find the records.
Okay, I'm making a motion that we make the current fire administrator light duty maintenance person
Make it up to 40.
up to 40 hours per week.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay? Call for the question.
Aye.
We're still in discussion, and this is
Okay.
very unfortunate because.
I'm sorry, you needed a motion first. I've made the motion, Richard has seconded.
Exactly, we went 20 minutes without a motion. Anyway, I appreciate all the comments, and I've been taking notes, I've been listening. We went over this last meeting, we went over this the meeting before. And mostly I want to agree with Bruce that if there's problems with the ordinance, if there's problems with the job description, if there's problems with the HR manual, we need to go back and fix those so that they're allowing what it is Deborah wants to do with her motion.
I made the motion for fire administrator light duty maintenance person to be
Increase.
a position up to 40 hours per week.
Pay. So that's what's
And
on.
Richard has seconded.
Right, discussion?
I think we've had enough discussion.
Okay, anybody else?
Trevor?
The ordinance describes a 20-hour person.
It has nothing to do with the ordinance.
Wouldn't this change?
That's not what we asked. Take a vote,
Would
please.
the motion change that ordinance then?
It's not an ordinance,
It has
It's nothing to do with an ordinance.
It's a job description.
Right, well, if it's in the ordinance, it doesn't
It's
change.
not.
It's not in the ordinance.
Okay,
I just made the motion, you seconded.
yes, I know, I'm just
Don't
asking.
second if you don't know what you're talking
Just proceed.
Town-
Slow down, and just do it right.
Carolyn Allen again, it's not in the ordinance. It's not.
And nothing has been brought to change the ordinance.
It's not a matter of the ordinance. It has
It is.
nothing to do with
It's
the
a job
ordinance.
description.
Excuse me,
It's a
it
job
has everything
description.
to do with the
Town-
ordinance.
and I don't-
Caroline.
It doesn't, John.
Town administrator was voted on, it's
It was-
deputy town clerk is
it-
covered by
it's still-
NRS.
It's still not backed up.
Mr. Basta, I am speaking.
Excuse me, do you want me to ask you to leave the meeting?
Sure,
Please leave the meeting.
you bet.
Mr. Boston.
OML.
Yep.
Mr. Basta, if you're gonna continue like this,
This town.
there's gonna have to be a negotiation about the meeting, because this is about the town. This is not about Mr. Basta.
I'm not
Please don't
here
leave.
saying it's about Mr. Boston. It's
Yes, you
not-
have.
It's not about the town, Deborah.
It
It's the
is.
fact that you are not backing it up with an ordinance.
It has nothing to do with.
What ordinance, John?
So I take it an ordinance has to be written every time I go to the bathroom.
Does it require an ordinance?
It requires an ordinance.
How has he been working all this time?
What is important, most people don't understand, is we adopted a town code.
Yes.
Any ordinance that is adopted after the town code has to amend the town code and add it to the town code. Now, there are people who sit on this board that do not want to take and follow the law, and we have members of the public that gets upset and leaves the meeting because they don't get their way.
That's not about way. It's about
And my point is that as chairman of this board, I will not move forward on something that is not backed up by an ordinance.
Okay, so do we know where this ordinance is in our bylaws?
And the ordinance that is in place says that it is a 20-hour position and it's changing the ordinance. No,
That's okay.
You are so mixed up, John.
That's all right.
Be nice if you really kept up to date on things, because that's not a true statement. I love the way you're changing it. to suit what you want, and you're wrong. And this time you are actually wrong.
We have a vote. I disagree with you, Deborah.
You disagree with everything that I try to say, other than thank you for working your tail off
Could we not make
to
this
keep
about
the office
personalities,
going.
please? Could we not make this personalities? Thank you.
Can I add one thing, or you?
Please do.
Just real quick. There is an ordinance establishing the fire department, and it says in that ordinance that it's the town's responsibility to fund the fire department. It's right on the first page. Ordinance number 1. That's the reason this town was made an elected town board, was because they want to control their own fire department.
That's correct.
Okay, it's in that ordinance, John.
Okay, and the thing is the town has supported it. What you're requesting here is that you're coming here and you have a position that has been adopted by ordinance for 20 hours, and you want it increased to 40 hours, and there is no amendment to the ordinance. There's no backup for the reason and rationale of the increase.
John, wait a minute.
That's
Item 8A is the amendment to the ordinance. That's what we're voting on right now. That we're going to amend that ordinance to 40 hours.
What you have is a job.
You can't do that just out of deciding, oh, we're gonna change the ordinance and do it at a drop of a hat. It's got to be written.
John, it's not an that's a job description.
We need to see the ordinance.
No positions are in the ordinance.
I think he's right.
That's correct.
Well,
And,
we have a vote ended. We're going to finish it.
It's a town employee.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion about the deliberations? I'd like to move on.
Yes, it's getting late.
Then take the vote.
All right.
Deborah?
Aye.
Trevor?
Nay, we need to bring the paperwork together.
Richard?
I'm going to vote aye for now.
Richard votes aye.
Yes.
John votes nay. 2-2.
2-2.
Fails.
Can you tell me exactly what we need, John, so it's there next time?
Our ordinance. You look at the ordinance.
It's not.
Or him to read his email.
What we will do, Bruce, is that I will get together with you and we will work on it.
Just put it on next.
I want you to know this is not personal against you and what you've done on this.
Yeah, and I didn't take it that way, John, but it gets pretty frustrating when it's been up 4 or 5 times and it's worded the same way. I tried to correct it and also asked, I'm still talking again. And I've also asked what else I needed to do and got no response. So to me, this should have been handled a long time ago. It shouldn't have been that big a deal. And it's turned into something that should be a routine for a town board to deal with. And it's a nightmare now. You got a lot of mad citizens, one employee that's I won't say it. I felt like I've been kind of jacked around.
Slighted.
And I'm tired of it. That's why I asked for more hours.
Any interest in getting this done by next month?
I'd like to
And
move
not
on
losing
to
our
item
value.
B.
Okay, moving on.
For possible action, discussion, deliberation, to reapply the town, generator complex, new heating unit, community center, new water truck for the fire department.
I motion that we approve this agenda item as stated. We did something like this, but the wording might have been done a little different last month. But yes, let's have a yes on this. We've already started the paperwork between the town of Amargosa and the grants coordinator in Peru.
Okay, I think what is important for the board to know, if you were not in attendance at the last BOCC meeting, is that underneath the previous grant, we put in for the very items in this agenda item. And that program was then redefined, and there's a new new application, and we have to make a new application before the, May 4th meeting, such that this can go before the BOCC. And we need to, approve moving that forward. And, basically what we need to do is that we need to approve Trevor as the clerk to rewrite the application and submit it for the town board.
Do we need a motion for that?
And we need a motion for
I
that.
provided the motion, we're waiting for a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the public?
Okay. Time, folks, contact.
Pat Minshall, MINSHALL, at the BOCC meeting this past Tuesday. It was very apparent that the BOCC wants us to have this generator, but again, we have got to get this paperwork in ASAP.
We're working on it, Pat.
And so make very, very sure that that is done, because we lost before. We don't want to lose again.
Okay, I'll call for the question. Deborah?
Aye.
Trevor?
Trevor, aye.
Richard?
Richard, aye.
John, aye. Passes 4-0. C, discussion. Each member of the town board is liaison. I would like to pull this item and move on because,
Yes. I agree.
we can make the, positions once John is on the board. Item D, to set a date, time, and place, for the next meeting, which would be May 27th, and that will be our final budget hearing, and, I need a motion for that.
Motion is
Excuse-
written on D.
No, excuse me, you have to amend this because by the second week of May, you must have a public hearing and it has to be published in the newsletter
So let's set.
with the Pahrump Valley Times that you are having a public hearing on the budget before the May 27th meeting, which is the final budget.
Thank you, Deb, I'll withdraw my motion.
What was that date again, Deborah?
22nd? No.
Has to be the second week of May.
So we have May 20th as our meeting, but when is the budget meeting?
We haven't set it. I'm looking to see when we have to do it. We're gonna have to do it by,
The final budget has to be set after the third Monday before the end of the month.
yes, that's the final one, but the May, you have to have.
Let me finish, please.
Please go ahead.
I was speaking about the final budget, and the May 27th is our regular monthly meeting. It's been arranged with the comptroller that she will come that day for the public final budget,
27 April?
27th.
Okay.
Okay, but we have to have a hearing in the Pahrump Valley Times announcing a budget hearing before May 13th.
So let's announce it.
You have to have that, that's the law. Just so you know, that is the comptroller law.
Okay. Let's put an announcement in that we're having a meeting not only on April 27, but also then for the date of the final budget. We can list both of them in the same ad and be done with it.
You have to have one on the 13th, that's the public hearing.
Okay, so that's May 13th?
The
Okay,
May 27th would be the final vote.
the motion and second is to approve Trevor to rewrite the grant and submit it before the 5-4 BOCC meeting. That is the agenda item and the motion.
Right.
You're
But we already voted that, John.
We're on D, item D, and
Okay,
we don't have,
excuse me then.
we don't have a motion. I'd like Deb to make the motion with.
Okay, I make a motion that we set a time of May 13th for the budget hearing, which will be published in the Valley Times for everyone to attend.
Okay.
And I would like to amend that motion, not only for the hearing on May 13th, but to have a budget meeting or a final hearing at the Amargosa Valley Town Board meeting on May 27th
Right,
at 7 p.m.
that's the final, right?
That would be for both hearings,
Right.
the hearing and the final budget.
Okay, so we have a hearing on the 13th, a meeting on the 27th.
Okay, check the calendar and see if we have,
That's what I was just doing, is checking the calendar.
Both those are Thursday nights, we can do that.
Yes, unless you want a different night.
And then our regular meeting, we're gonna be very busy that month. And then, so we have 13th, the 20th, and the 27th, we're meeting all 3 weeks.
we have plenty of time because that's May 13th and this is the 20th of this, 22nd of this month.
So I'll second Deborah's motion. Thank you.
Yes.
13th hearing. Okay, we have a motion and a second and,
No, that's for
Have a
one
vote.
budget, actually, tentative budget.
Deborah, how do you
It's
vote?
after that. Aye.
Trevor?
Trevor, aye.
Richard?
Richard, aye.
Okay, I say aye, 4-0. Okay, is Benita still here? Excellent. Number 11, we have a closed meeting for possible action. The board will meet in a closed session pursuant to NRS 241.030 to consider the performance, character, alleged misconduct, and professional competence of Benita Rodriguez, Deputy Town Clerk. So we need to go into the office for the closed session. And Benita, will you please join us?
I guess we'll stop it for now.
That sounds good.